I was trying to figure out what Thanksgiving was really about, like where it came from, because there's a lot of stories about it. But basically, um, Thanksgiving it's not really a pagan holiday, but it's linked to some really satanic acts that people was doing during the time. And if you ever notice, it's a lot of different Thanksgiving stories, because basically what was happening is around the same time between I think it's like 1620 and like 1623 or something like that. Around the same time of Thanksgiving, there was a lot of the same type of acts going on all over the places with the Pilgrims and the Indians. But the first document I want to look at is the one that says treachery commemorated.
May 31st, 2008. Dear Dr. Paul, thank you for posting this article about the real Thanksgiving and the role of Miles Standish in early Plymouth. It says, I am a descendant of Standish, and it has been my goal to understand him and the events concerning him in a deeper way. I want to know all the history. I've read the the WAF's approved version, and it's good to see the other versions coming to light. I work closely with my ancestors and live my life to redeem their blood. A better knowing of the results of their actions help in two ways. It clears up the propaganda and glamour from my eyes, and it inspires me to be a better person in my daily decisions and living. It also teaches me history, which I wasn't very good at in high school. Now it has a whole new meaning as I think about my ancestors living in those times and places. My nieces and nephews will learn the truth from me, and their children too. It says, for what it's worth, I apologize for my grandfather's actions. Indeed, all my ancestors. Respectfully, Clarence Standish the Fourth.
All right, so that was the letter that he wrote to this guy. I think his name is Daniel something, and he was one of the descendants of this Standish dude that we about to read about. So basically, after he saw the WASP whatever version, that was basically just the like Americanized publications of what happened, because they have this little monument that commemorates this event. So you can go down to where it says the real Thanksgiving, quoted from the Hidden
Yes.
Mystery of Massachusetts.
Okay. The Real Thanksgiving, quoted from the Hidden History of Massachusetts. Excuse me. Much of America's understanding of the early relationship between the Indian and the European is conveyed through the story of Thanksgiving. Proclaimed a holiday in 1863 by Abraham Lincoln, this fairy tale of a feast was allowed to exist in the American imagination pretty much untouched until 1970. The 350th anniversary of the landing of the Pilgrims, okay, period. That is when Frank B. James, president of the Federated Eastern Indian League, prepared a speech for a Plymouth banquet that exposed the pilgrims for having committed, among other crimes, the robbery of the graves of the Wampanoags. He wrote, we welcome you, the white man, with open arms, little knowing that it was the beginning of the end, that before 50 years were passed, the Wampanoag would no longer be a free people. But white Massachusetts officials told him he could not deliver such a speech and offered him to write another. Instead, James declined to speak, and on Thanksgiving Day, hundreds of Indians from around the country came to protest. It was the first national day of mourning, a day to mark the losses Native Americans suffered as early as settlers prospered, as the early settlers prospered. This is the true story of Thanksgiving and what whites did not want Mr. James to tell. What really happened in Plymouth, 1621. According to a single paragraph account in the writings of one pilgrim, a harvest feast did take place in Plymouth in 1621, probably in mid-October, but the Indians who attended were not even invited. Though it later became known as Thanksgiving, the Pilgrims never called it that. And amidst the imagery of a picnic of interracial harmony is some of the most terrifying bloodshed in New World history. The pilgrim crop had failed miserably that year, but the agriculture expertise of the Indians had produced 20 acres of corn, without which the pilgrims would have surely perished. The Indians often brought food to the pilgrims who came from England ridiculously unprepared to survive and hence relied almost exclusively on handouts from the overly generous Indians, thus making the pilgrims the Western Hemisphere's first welfare recipients. The pilgrims invited the Indian Sakam to their feast, and it was Massoit engaging in the tribal traditions of equal sharing who then invited 90 more of his Indian brothers and sisters, to the annoyance of the 50 or so ungrateful Europeans. No turkey, cranberry sauce, or pumpkin pie was served. They likely ate duck or geese and the venison from the 5 deer brought by Massoit. In fact, most, if not all, of the food was most likely bought and prepared by the Indians, whose 10,000-year familiarity with the cuisine of the region had kept the whites alive up to that point.